I've had conversations with angelic realms, which to me are above ascended master realms, even realms above the angelic realms, which I consider God realms, and which creator energies and consciousness exists.
Welcome to New Realities. I'm Alan Steinfeld, and this program is about the expansion of consciousness. And I've gone all over the world finding people who are bringing in new knowledge, new awareness. And I am particularly tuned into channeling and people who are tapping into the unknown because we have this non-local awareness of our minds. So I've interviewed people I feel are some of the best channels of our time. Jay-Z Knight for Ramtha, Daryl Anker for Bashar, Paul Selick and his guide. So my mission, one of them, is to find people who are bringing in this non-local awareness, this new information. So I think I have another one today. His name is Asil. Thank you. Thanks for being here, Asil. Northern California, very interesting information coming through, but you're new to, you've been doing channeling for how long? Tell me your story of how you started this process, because that's always fascinating for me.
Yes.
How do you let go of the personality and allow this bigger consciousness to enter you? So yeah, I'd love to hear your story first, and then we'll do some channeling, of course.
Well, thank you, Alan, for having me on your show. And it's always fascinating to me to meet new individuals of this industry. It seems to be there is an industry about this. There is an ecosystem of highly established individuals. Channeling has never been on my radar. It's not been a thing that I had followed. I've seen it, of course, out there, the first Cryon books and so on. But to be honest and frank, I've never read any of them. And my path was more of an experiential path. I was an entrepreneur. I was in the corporate world. I built companies. I went the academic route. I studied multiple different things.
You didn't have any spiritual background, you're saying, or it was not even a sideline?
Yes, definitely on the sidelines. So basically, what was happening was in my early 20s, I had a fairly successful ending of a business, and that just brought up a really interesting internal conflict, an inner conflict that was already there, that was suppressed because I was keeping myself busy working towards a certain goal. And that goal is, if you achieve some sort of financial or some sort of corporate success in society, then you'll be happy. So that was the promise that was made to me, and that's the promise I believed. When I got to that point, I realized it was an empty promise. But then I started to see something that is more underlying, that is not in alignment. There was some sort of emptiness and misalignment inside of me, a discontent that I couldn't put my finger on.
Do you think making those businesses was a way to compensate for something that was always there?
I think there was two parts for it. One is certainly my upbringing and my education and my family's background. You know, as children, we kind of live the unfulfilled dreams of our parents until...
And of course, the drive here is the American dream, to make it, to be successful. And that's how things become meaningful, when you're achieved the American dream. So yeah. So
that's for sure one of the aspects of it. The other aspect is there is a sense of freedom without limitations, where you can really do the things that you are passionate about. You can really go out there and you'll be accepted in some form or way, right?
This country represented for you. This is what...
Yes.
What was it that had this spiritual transformation where suddenly you got into all this stuff and started to channel? That's a huge leap from the business.
For sure. And it was not an overnight thing. So in my early 20s, with the business world, um, and switching from the business world and seeing the inner conflicts, I started to do a lot of internal work, self-development and personal development work. I started to get a lot more curious about spiritual practices and spiritual traditions. So I would spend a lot of time with native populations in the US, but also in South America. I would spend a lot of time with Buddhism and Taoism in China. So there was this continuous building and diving deeper and deeper into that space. Now, channeling was still not part of it. But as I've gone through forms of shamanic training, I would start to experience communication with non-material beings, spirits, spirits of nature, elementals. The forest was talking to me and the mountains were talking to me. So there was like this visceral connection that was right there. And as you might know, in native traditions, there's a lot of interaction and relationship with nature. There's a lot of interaction and relationship with Earth itself. That set kind of the foundation for me. And I was going on this path stronger and stronger, and that direction was very healing and very much of a growth process for me. And about 5 years ago, things started to get really interesting. I started to have experiences with much higher consciousness than I have ever experienced on like this earth plane and nature planes. I started to break through into, I would say, like higher frequency planes.
Wait, is that because you were meditating more, or did it just happen?
Well, let's say that the shamanic traditions have practices that just allow an expansion of consciousness to...
You mean the medicine ways? Is that what you're talking about?
Also, yes, that's one part of it as well. So there is definitely a strong establishment through the medicine ways. But there is also an element where I spent 7 years with in Taoist traditions, meditating for long periods of times and practicing these inner qigong practices to open up the energetic channels.
And suddenly you broke through. There was boom.
I've spoken about this experience a couple times. In this first experience, I was in the redwood forests in Northern California on a full moon night. It was like the redwoods were like, it was like this misty forest, very mystical. I was sitting outside by a fire, and I was in deep meditation and like in deep connection with nature around. And this full moon night was so potent, and I could feel there was a switch in the energy around me when suddenly all the insects and the birds, everything stopped. I was in this sound proof energetic field, and I could feel something is arriving here that I have never felt or experienced before. And there was this high-pitched sound in my ears, and I could feel the reverence of the space changing. And when I closed my eyes, I saw these light beings around me, and I thought, either this is my luckiest day or it's the last day, the last moments of my existence.
Or you're going crazy. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you never do know, but you trusted it anyway. So there.
I trusted it.
And then what happened?
The voices spoke to me, and it was as clear as you and I speak to each other. And the voice said, "You're ready now, and we can work with you. It will take some time to prepare your vessel, but if you're willing and ready, we will make all the adjustments on your being so that you can become a vessel of our work." And I said, "Who are you?" And that voice said, "My name is Emmanuel, and I will be guiding you through this process." And I thought, who is Emmanuel? And because I had no, I grew up in a Roman Catholic country. So to me, the angels and demons, that was a part of a mythical and legendary story that helped individuals to cope with life, right? That's the way I grew up with it. That was my perception of it. Never would I have thought, oh, this is real. Like, they really exist and they are present and they can communicate. So that was a mind blow experience.
Emmanuel meaning Jesus? Isn't that another name for Jesus, Emmanuel?
I mean, some people consider, or there is that concept that Emmanuel was one of the names of Jesus before he was named Jesus Christ. In my case, I'm not sure if that's him or if it's an angelic being in that sense.
Be an Emmanuel channeled by a woman named Pat Rodegaster in New York, and that was beautiful channeling. I thought that was really so. I mean, maybe there's a Emmanuel floating around looking to be channeled. I don't know.
Yes, maybe.
So you said yes to that, I guess, voice, and then what happened?
It took me 3 months to decide. I was like, I'm going to think about this because this seems rather a big decision.
So then what? So you decided yes after 3 months, and then what was the that's just the part I'm really always curious in, is how your mind starts to access those forces so they can speak through you. Yeah, because nothing I don't think I want to do, but I'm happy you're doing it. So.
Yes, it is. I have to say, it is quite an experience of surrendering. And I'm a very cerebral person, and some people would have considered me probably an obsessive, compulsive control freak. And, it was like surrendering that part of me that I perceive as my identity, as who I am, to an outside being or to outside consciousness. It's quite a stretch, right? So it took me, in the beginning, it would take me at least an hour to 2 in meditation to just get to a level of readiness to connect with them. And they would have to lower almost themselves down to catch me where I was. And this was like, oh, let's meet in the middle until he's ready to get further up, and let's catch him.
What do you do? Because you still take time to prepare for channeling, right?
Yes.
But what do you do to actually raise your vibration to meet these beings?
Over time, this meeting and this connection started to become more permanent and much easier to access. It would take less and less and less time, and eventually it became a permanent bond that is always there. Now, I can almost tap into it and ask questions without much preparation. And that took about 2-3 years in development to get to that place. In my sessions, there is another aspect of it, which is the energetic preparation of this entire vessel. And you might have seen it in the videos. It's pretty intense. It's pretty rigorous.
It seems like a lot of Kundalini energy is going through your body.
Correct. So there is contractions that come from my lower belly that are just my core continuously contracting, almost as if it's trying to jumpstart an engine.
How do you get it to do that?
It just starts.
But you do something. Do you go say a mantra? You go into a meditation?
Nothing at all. I just close my eyes. They know I'm ready, and this physical process starts.
One more question I love to ask people channeling is, who do you think you're channeling? Is it maybe a part of your higher self, or are the beings that another dimension, another planet? I mean, so what's your connection and who are they?
So I have had conversations with my higher self, and they are beautiful. I've had conversations with beings of non-material existence, of lower planes, of the earth planes. I've had conversations with diseased people, and this conversation happens on a much higher frequency. They are beings of higher consciousness, of what I would consider angelic realms, which to me are above ascended master realms. And there is even realms above the angelic realms, which I consider God realms, and which creator energies and consciousness exists. And so that connection is held and controlled in some ways, managed, supervised, whatever you want to call it, by this conglomerate of angelic beings. So they make sure that nothing else can utilize this opening aside from what is authorized by them.
Right. So it's a really pure high frequency that, you know, you're stretching to. It's like, it's the highest you've gone so far is what I think what you're saying when you bring in these beings.
I've gone higher.
You've gone higher, but you're not channeling that level.
I am, but that stays for now off the public records. And it's magnificent. We might even bring some of that out into the second book I will be bringing out. Those channelings just are even of a different perspective, and even much higher perspective than the angelic ones.
So you're going to bring through some angelic energies today, but you're also saying there's that next level.
Absolutely.
Do you want to say more, or do you wish we meet your guys?
Let me see. I think there is one aspect I'd like to mention as well. It's the work that I do is maybe slightly different than most of the channeling work that I have seen. There is an element to it which is an energy transmission. It is. This is why the building of the energy vessel is so critical in the beginning. It's, of course, I can just tap into it and get a couple of answers and get them to talk, but there is something there that they deliver, and the work that they do, which is an energetic alignment and some sort of energy healing or energetic surgery, if you want to say so. And people have written us about their experiences, even being on the other side of the planet through a live stream. And it's fascinating how similar the experiences are around the world, even if people have never seen this work before. There is a correlation that we can make on what they're experiencing on their end. They go into trance-like states, they feel like the warmth or the electricity coming through, they feel the presence that is working on them, and there are some symptoms of recalibration over the next couple days after they receive this work. So it's not just the delivery of words and delivery of wisdom, but there is inherently a realignment happening in the individuals.
We'll be able to feel this in this channeling you're doing today, an energetic transmission.
Well, I think the work that we're going to do today is going to be more of a conversational connection, but you might feel it, of course. When it comes to the energetic alignment, Raphael will normally come through and he will do a full energetic surgery on you. And most likely you will not be operational after that. So
feel free to
knock you out.
I'm always experimenting and seeing, you know, how certain energies feel. So that's why I do this, you know.
I love it.